For more on this, we can bring in Cynthia Arnson, professor at Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies and former director of the Latina American program at the Wilson Center. Cynthia, thank you so much for joining us on the program today.
Great to be with you. Thank you.
Now, Donald Trump, as we just heard there, he's ordered the U.S.'s largest aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald R. Ford, to the region. Many are seeing this as a massive escalation. Should we be concerned?
There are multiple reasons to be concerned. There's very little evidence, as your reporter has indicated, that attacks on these boats are actually drug smuggling vessels. They are attacks where you sort of kill first and ask questions later, and the legality of this, both under U.S. and international law, I think, is in dispute. But the size of this deployment, the number of aircraft carriers, helicopters, boats, jet fighters that are now positioned in the Caribbean suggest that this is far beyond a drug trafficking or a counter drug trafficking operation. And there's, I think, every reason to believe or expect that there will be attacks inside Venezuelan territory aimed at deposing the current dictatorship there of Nicolás Maduro. And let's be clear, the Maduro government has been a source of instability in South America, in the region, in the Caribbean, for many years, if not decades. The economy has collapsed. The criminal economies are rampant. Venezuela has lent its territory to the Colombian guerrillas, the ELN, and the government itself is deeply involved in a wide range of illegal activities. So no one would particularly shed a tear to see a transition to democracy in Venezuela. But the real question is how this military action or possible military action will lead to the kind of democratic transition I think that we all would like to see happen.
Now, Cynthia, you touched on a couple of things there. One, the United States has a long history of sort of meddling in the affairs in South America, in Latin America. Trump has accused the Venezuelan president of being the leader of a drug trafficking organization, sort of the justification for all of this. Now, Maduro has denied that. And you mentioned, maybe it's regime change here. So what is Trump's endgame in Venezuela?
Well, I think the end game there are diverse end games. One is to stop drugs coming into the United States that has been stopped migrants from coming into the United States. Those are two central pillars of Trump administration policy towards Latin America and the Caribbean. But you don't deploy these kinds of military assets around Venezuela on the Caribbean side and now on the Pacific side if you're just going to blow up some what they call narco lanchas, these small boats that are accused of ferrying drugs, through the Caribbean. And I think, if the end game is to get rid of Maduro, what is not clear is, what are the steps? What is the connection between this kind of military force? There may be an assumption that there will be cracks in the regime, that the circles and inner and outer circles around Maduro may be so concerned about a military attack on their country that they will move inside to depose Maduro. But again, there is a long, many steps that have to take place between that and allowing the democratic opposition to take power. And we've seen just in the last weeks that one of the principal opposition leaders, Maria Corina Machado, was given the Nobel Peace Prize for her amazingly courageous struggle against the dictatorship. But what is the process that allows the democratic opposition to take power through these military actions, I think, is something that it has not been apparent and may not even have been thought through within the administration.
Now, we've heard President Maduro reacting. He even made some comments in English the other day, appealing for peace, not war. He's accusing the U.S. of fabricating a war. How likely is he to respond to this show of force?
Well, he's already tried to respond, but the over the years of the economic collapse in Venezuela, the Venezuelan armed forces are seriously degraded. But they claim to have surface-to-air missiles. I think there's every reason to expect that they do have that. They've had decades of armaments from Russia. I'm not sure about China, but certainly from Russia. And the chances of something happening, of them firing on a U.S. aircraft, of killing U.S. soldiers and allowing this thing to escalate, I think is very real. Even though, as I say, this is not a country with a great deal of military power.
Now, as you mentioned, one of the concerns could be this leads to a bigger conflict. So, what steps could help reduce tensions between the two countries?
It's not clear really that there are any. There had been really two tracks within the Trump administration, one led by Special Envoy Rick Grenell, which was talking to the regime directly, and Maduro was offering U.S. access to Venezuela's tremendous oil resources and mineral resources. I mean, really trying to make a deal, as it were, with the Trump administration and allow the government to remain. But that track has been stopped, has been stopped dead in its tracks, and instead a more aggressive policy represented by Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth is the one that's dominant now, and it is an intensification of this military pressure on the Venezuelan government. And again, I think I certainly would be shocked if there weren't military strikes inside Venezuela that will be justified to the American public and to the world in terms of going after drug labs, drug trafficking networks, individuals, including the ELN guerrillas that are involved in drug trafficking. Where this ends, I don't know. How this produces the kind of political change that we'd all like to see in Venezuela, again, is not clear at all.
Cynthia, thank you so much for joining us today on the program and sharing your expertise. That's Cynthia Arnson from Johns Hopkins School of International